Hi, I'm Jonathan from Osiris Media. I'm here with Railroad Earth at Delfest, and we're all excited to be here because we're at Delfest, right? You guys having a good time? Yeah. All right, all right. So I'm going to start, and I don't know who wants to take it, but I want to. You guys have, of all the people we've talked to, that's not a McCoury, you guys have played here more, and I think this is your 9th visit or so.
We've been to everyone except one. Right? Two. Oh, two. We've missed two.
Okay.
It says in the program that we have played 9.
Yeah, I did some math. I mean, I actually went and counted to look at. I didn't do any research other than that.
You don't look like a mathematician.
I am not a mathematician. Okay. So don't hold me to any of my numbers. But Delfest is special to, I think, everybody who comes here. Maybe somebody would like to talk about why it's special to you guys.
Sure, I'll start. Delfest has always seemed like old home week for us because a lot of the bands we play the same circuit, a lot of the different festivals. But this seems to be a place where most the greater number of them seem to land, and we you know it's kind of cool to just hang out with all of our friends. So it seems like home, you know, and that's kind of why I love it.
It's great. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Yeah. I mean, it's the Del McCoury Fest. I mean, Del is an American treasure, you know, and his whole family. To me, he represents, you know, that direct lineage back to Bill Monroe and you know, the highest form of pure bluegrass, you know, and he's just been at it. So to be in his camp and you know, part of this scene, even though what we do is so different, is really an honor. And Del is just an icon of cool in the bluegrass scene, you know? I mean, he just is, so.
Sure is.
Yeah, and it's become, you know, we've been here since the very first one, so we've kind of grown with the festival. It's been part of our annual touring schedule for a good while now. I guess, when was the first one? 11 years ago? But it's always been, for us also, it's kind of, we do a winter tour and then we have a little break, and it's usually the kickoff to festival season. So it's been a demarcation of, all right, back to touring festival season too as well for us. So it's been kind of fun that way.
Yeah, one of the hallmarks of Delfest is the collaborations that we see on stage. You know, Ronnie plays with everybody these days, it seems. And you guys had Lindsay Lou on stage with you last night for the encore, which is a Dead fan, half step. That was terrific. Is there anybody that you've collaborated with here on stage that you carry with, and you want to, anybody else you'd like to bring up with you at some point, or anybody you want to see play with somebody else out here?
I would love to have Tammy Rogers, the fiddle player from the Steel Drivers, come and play with us. Unfortunately, they're heading off to go somewhere else, so they're not going to be here for it, but she's always been one of my heroes. Like, probably my 2 favorite fiddle players going are Tammy Rogers and Jason Carter. And but yeah, so that would be one of my wishes.
Yeah. Our collaboration with Warren Haynes started here. The first time that any of us played with him, he invited us. He was doing a solo set here, like 2012. It was a long time ago. Ah. But yeah, that was the first time we did that. And then it was funny because it's the classic thing. You get done with the set, and oh, we should do something. Let's play. Let's record. Like everyone always says that because everyone wants to do that. Schedules, it's just impossible. And then a year later, he actually called us to do that, and we made that Ashes and Dust record with him. So
which is terrific.
That was fun. That happened because of Delfest, really, I think.
You guys just recently put out some new music, the John Denver Letters. Did I get that name right? Yeah. Which is a beautiful couple of tracks. And could you, I understand it's also the last stuff you recorded with Andy. Maybe you could tell me how that came together?
I'll take that, Karen.
Yeah, we happen to share management with the people that manage John Denver's estate. So, it was a great idea, and unfortunately they were up for it, and gave us access to a bunch of unfinished lyrics and stuff, and Todd can kind of take it from there. His process of getting it off the ground. But obviously did a terrific job piecing stuff together and coming up with some songs. And it was great to record. Both of them happened in kind of a day, you know, start to finish. We show up in the morning and Todd shows us what he had and put it together by the end of the day. So it was a great process and an honor to be able to do it, to be honest. So.
Yeah, I mean, John Denver is obviously a treasure for all of us, and we all have different probably connections and where we heard him, but to be able to go back into that material or into untouched material, I guess it is. What did you find? Was there a lot of stuff? Was it easy to assemble things? I mean, I don't know what kind of fragments or things were you working on?
Yeah, they sent me just kind of stuff that he jotted down on like hotel stationery, and I just went through it and tried to make sense of it at first, you know, and it took a while. It was a process. There were maybe 7 or 8 different ideas that were on little various bits of paper, and I went through them and I kind of just to see what I might, what grabbed me, you know, first. And I came up with those 2 were the first ones that I worked on. I just, you know, picked up my guitar, started playing and singing with what was there, and then trying to shape it into song form, because they weren't really fully shaped as a song, you know. I kind of look at it and say, well, this might be like a pre-chorus type idea. This seems like it might have some strength as the theme, maybe the chorus type line. And it was a great process. I've never worked that way, and it was really interesting, because I think the songs took the shape they did just because of that process, you know, where it's, I tried to be as true to the words as I could I didn't change them at all. so it was, that led to a different, you know, chord sequence or a shape of the song, because I didn't want to change it. I didn't want to like edit it or, you know, so I just went with the flow of it. And then I set it down for a few months because I wasn't quite connecting with all of it. And then a few months later, I came back, and after kind of digging into John's world a little bit, watching some videos and connecting with his spirit and with his artistry, then I came back to it a few months later, and then they just poured right out. I wrote a song for every one of them. I don't know if we'll ever get to all of those, but I hope so, because there were some really, really good ones in there.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, the ones you got were good. So they were phrases and fragments and couplets from various sources, and but that's not how you write. Are you more of a sit down and write the whole song normally with your own material?
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, I've never written a song where I just wrote out lyrics and then set it to music.
Sure.
You know, I do the whole. My process is kind of all at once.
Okay.
Playing and singing, and it's all, the lyrics come as part of the whole thing. So I never really just have like a lyric and then set it to music. It was a different process, and I enjoyed it. And I can see how certain, you know, songwriters who have lyricists, how their material ends up being different because of that. Because you're trying, you know, it leads, the shape of the song is accommodating the lyric rather than those two things, and it leads to a different kind of shape of a song, you know.
Did you actually get the actual lyrics on those pieces of paper, or were they like photocopies of that?
Well, at first they sent me, you know, they wrote them out, typed them out, and sent me an email.
Okay.
But then they sent me the actual.
That's crazy, man.
Then they photocopied the actual. You know,
that must have been
little
wild to get them and just see that. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. It was sort of like you visited a ghost or something.
Yeah, well, no, it was, you know, and there's a little story in there. You know, one of them with each set of them. I mean, one came from stationery from some hotel in England. You know, he was on tour in the UK, and just must have jotted down some lyric ideas, in his hotel room. Never got to it,
Yeah, I mean, I've written only a few songs in my life, but I've still got a box of little scraps of things that you could put together. So I imagine that as somebody as prolific as that probably had a lot of that stuff in his life.
Yeah, it's the thing that in writing the little bio that we released with the song, I landed on the phrase emotional bravery. His stuff is really intense. I mean, he lays it out there. There's no hiding where his feelings are. And it's a little daunting to dive into that, and try and get that close to someone's emotional experience and try and put it in a song. But
I think that's why listeners connect to it, though, at the same time.
So he was oversharing before it was cool.
I mentioned, and it's in the press for the release, that this is the last thing you recorded with Andy. Obviously, he was a force in your music, just as a musician, as a person, and that's got to leave a void, a space in what you do. And how do you pick up and move on, aside from the, what else would we do? How do you carry on as a band from that moment?
Well, it was very, obviously it goes without saying, it was very tough at first when, we got the news and this was very fresh, right when he passed. But as it sort of went on, in fact, the day we got the news, we were in the airport going to a festival that we host in Arkansas. And that was pretty brutal. It was a brutal trip. It was a brutal day. But actually, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but that was probably one of the best situations we could be in emotionally, because it's like you just had this giant support group, It made it more of a cathartic experience, like everyone is there sharing this experience with you, the fans, the crew, just everybody. And it became, you're watching this like celebration of life, that's if you dedicate your life to something. I mean, we could only all be so lucky that the day you pass, there's hundreds, thousands of people, grateful for what you did. That's amazing. That's awesome, And I think it would have been harder, at least for me, to be at home, with my family, who's like, they know him, but it's like it's different. They didn't live with him every day and listen to his music every day the way I do and our fans do, and you just be there stewing and like, but you have that release of emotion, and it was for me, it's been a life-affirming experience. Now that time has passed, I don't think about his passing, but what's now left behind. So that's been kind of a silver lining, kind of a beautiful thing.
That's great. I did see, at the time that the fan outpouring was tremendous. It was tremendous, and it was very moving. I understand you guys are now working on a new record. Hope I read that correctly, but how is that taking shape, and where are you in that process?
Well, kind of to tie it to something that Andrew was saying, that I think it was really important that we were together at that first weekend, and it was even more important that we continued a project that was started when he was still with us, which was trying to make this record over the last year that he was alive. It could never come together, and then, someone, probably the manager, was like, let's just go in January and do this. And we did something that the five of us, and even with Andy, had never done, which was we picked up and went away, and we're just us making a record. And because of where we live in New Jersey, there's so much access to studios and things that we've always been used to just going somewhere close and working together and going home. Life has become more and more complicated, families and everything else. And I think for that moment for us to pick to go away, also in the aftermath of losing him, was really important. So if nothing else, the fact that we got up every day in a different city, well, we didn't have a gig. We didn't have to be there for any other reason. We went to work, and then we did something that's really rare. The 5 of us sat and had dinner together every night, which we don't do on the road. And I don't know. I think that's Andy, and that's his spirit, in the sense that this was also a guy in the last year of his life that if he could make it out after a test or whatever threw him in the hospital for the night to a gig, he was going to. He actually did in June last year. Right. He, literally had the hospital wristband on him and wouldn't miss a gig. And it's Andy. And Andy would be about these two guys that are with us now. He would be after a gig when anybody else was going to have a beer or go to bed. Andy set off into the campground, or he set off into any late night show with a horn, with anything he could find, and stood on the side of the stage until they called him up. He wanted to meet people. He wanted to play with people constantly. And I think the way that we've been able to handle this so far since losing him has been very much, whether we intended to or not, it seems to be unfolding in an organic way that feels like what he, in his spirit, in honor of his spirit. So, yeah.
We kind of, the way this Andy's health situation unfolded, we kind of kept going and started taking steps with, toward what we're looking like now, even before he passed, because he was kind of coming and going. It seemed like for a while there, he had gotten a clean bill of health, and then he was back playing with us. But when he was not able to make it, then we had other players coming out with us. And, that's when we first started playing with Matt. And so it wasn't a situation where it was like Andy passed and then we said, well, what are we going to do now? It was kind of it was kind of unfolding as his health was changing, So the band was changing as we kept going.
I think it was the last time we were here 2 years ago. It was the first early on when we went out and played without Andy because we wanted him, to stay home, take care of himself, do whatever he had to do. And I think it was kind of a deliberate choice to put a different face on things. Matt was with us then to have a great keyboard player and be different and kind of put the message out, we're not quite ourselves, stay tuned, And at that time, we really didn't know what was going to happen any more than anybody did, and it was just a temporary, we're just doing this, Andy, you have nothing to worry about, look after yourself, And I remember even at one point as he was getting through treatment, we were out here and there, we'd see online, well, Andy was out at the local bar sitting in with so-and-so. And it was just, okay, that's what he does, I guess he's feeling well, but, it was Bromberg. Okay, yeah, he was out with Bromberg, sure.
Can you blame him?
But we had this period of having to change ourselves and kind of face up to it, but also know that he was getting taken care of the way he needed to, and that things were going in the right direction for a while, and then he was able to rejoin us. And one of the great moments is we'd been with Matt for a period of time. Red Rocks was coming up, and Andy was able to come back, and now we had this whole blessing of ourselves plus something new. And then he was back in full force, as was said before. So it was this strange wave, I guess, that didn't feel, thankfully, like a sudden absence, but it also was a little deceptive because we had this feeling of we're doing something different. Now we're back to ourselves with Andy, and then that's not an option anymore, So that was the shock after all that time of being kind of back and forth with it.
We went out on, I think, the winter tour after Del Fest. I may have the timing wrong, but I think that's what it was. And it was a pretty long and brutal tour, and it was brutal because one guy in the crew got the flu, and the next thing you knew, it ran through the bus, and everybody got it. But there's only 2 people that didn't get the flu. Everybody else was sick as a dog, and the 2 people that didn't get the flu were Andy and this guy. Everybody else was dying.
It seems like the message here is that he was a player, and you guys keep playing, right? Yeah. So, and Delfest is a great place to keep carrying on that.
I honestly think he'd be pissed at us if we stopped playing. What is
right?
wrong with you? If he's watching somewhere, I think he'd be pissed if we stopped.
So Just want to say that this is the 10th anniversary of me nearly dying at Delfest. This is the 10th anniversary of that crazy tornado, the F2 that landed over in the gorge on the other side of the hill there, and all of that crazy wind shear that came through. There's a video. I was playing with the Great American. I was doing a set with the Great American Taxi over on the Potomac stage, and I mean, there's some guy alongside that was working with us took a video of it, wound up on the Weather Channel. It's pretty crazy.
I think I remember seeing that video.
Yeah.
It's been some time.
And that was like the first wave of it, and there were like 3 waves or 4 waves, and that was the least of them. We got to I'll never forget, or my friend Rick Klein, who's managing the main stage now, he was managing the Potomac stage, and right like halfway through the 3rd wave, and everything is going crazy. There's debris in the air. It's a 300-year-old oak tree that's smacking down on the top of the tent of the Potomac stage, and all of a sudden he comes running out and goes, "It's not safe here. Run for your lives." I'm like, well, where are you gonna go?
Remain
dude?
calm, but run for your lives.
Remain calm. Run for your life.
Well, hopefully the predicted weather doesn't get that extreme tonight, and you guys' set can go on as planned. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys are too. Maybe you can drag a few of the McCoury's or somebody up, Jason, for example, up on, onto the stage. And
Jason, he kind of he sort of disappears until he actually has to be there.
I've seen him on so many stages this weekend, though. So yeah, just give him the nudge, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you guys for spending the time with us, and I hope you have a great show. And we'll see you on stage and next time, probably at Delfest.